Jason never imagined that his life would change because of a roommate. When he applied for the interspecies exchange program, he thought it would be a small adventure, maybe something to brag about later. He pictured quiet days, maybe sharing meals, learning a few alien words, and writing short reports about cultural exchange. What he didn't picture was standing at the door of a tiny apartment, staring at an alien girl who would live with him for the next year. Her name was Liara. She was nothing like what Jason expected. Most of the alien races he had seen on the news looked frightening or strange, but Liara was different. Her silver skin shimmered faintly when the light touched it, like moonlight on water. Her violet eyes were deep and soft, almost too expressive for someone who had crossed stars to reach Earth. She looked delicate, but there was a quiet strength in the way she carried herself. Jason tried to act casual, but his voice cracked a little. Hi, I'm Jason. Welcome." Liara bowed her head slightly, a gesture of respect from her people. Her words were careful, her accent soft, but noticeable. "Thank you. I will do my best. Please take care of me." Her tone carried a kind of seriousness Jason wasn't used to in everyday life. It wasn't just polite, it was almost solemn, as if being his roommate was more than just a contract. The apartment itself was small. 2 rooms, a shared kitchen, and a living area that wasn't much larger than a closet. Jason had set up his bed in the corner, leaving space for Liara to arrange her things. He expected her to roll out some strange alien device, or maybe use the floor. Instead, she knelt quietly, unrolled a thin sleeping mat, and began placing it. On the ground near the wall, Jason frowned. "Wait, you're sleeping on that?" Liara nodded without hesitation. "Yes, it is enough." But later that night, when Jason was about to lie down on his bed, she turned toward him with a strangely firm expression. "Human, we must share." Jason blinked. Share what?" She pointed at the bed. "The bed. It is my people's way. Tradition. We must." Jason nearly choked on air. His face turned red and he sat up quickly. "Wait, hold on. You mean you want us to sleep together? In the same bed?" Liara tilted her head slightly, confused by his reaction. "Yes. On my world, no one sleeps alone. It is dangerous. It is dishonor." Jason scratched the back of his neck, completely lost. "Look, I don't know how it works on your planet, but here, we don't usually do that with roommates." Her eyes softened, but her voice carried a quiet determination. "I understand. But if I do not share a bed with you, it means I do not trust you. It means I see you as stranger. That is shame for both of us. Please, do not let me dishonor you." Jason didn't know what to say. The seriousness in her voice left no room for laughter. It wasn't a joke, not a misunderstanding. This was her tradition. He realized then that to her people, sharing a bed wasn't about romance or anything physical. It was survival. It was trust. He hesitated, heart pounding awkwardly, then sighed. "All right, if it means that much to you." That night, Jason found himself lying stiffly on one side of the narrow bed, with Liara on the other. She folded her arms across her chest, her posture so rigid it was almost funny. Neither of them moved for a long time. Jason stared at the ceiling, trying to relax, but his mind kept racing. He wondered how he ended up here, sharing a bed with an alien girl who believed this strange tradition was a matter of honor. Finally, he whispered, "Why is this so important to you?" Liara stayed silent for a while. Then she spoke, her voice, soft but heavy with memory. "On my world, the nights are cruel. The winds cut like knives. The predators hunt without sound. To sleep alone is to invite death. We rest together, always. It is how we know we are not abandoned. It is how we live. Jason turned his head toward her, but she kept her gaze on the ceiling. He didn't know how to answer. He only knew that. Behind her strange request was something deeper, something painful. And as he closed his eyes, he realized this year would be nothing like he imagined. The first night they shared the bed left Jason restless. He had expected awkwardness, sure, but he hadn't expected the quiet weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Liara didn't speak much once they lay down, but the way her body tensed, the way her eyes stared softly into the ceiling, told him more than words ever could. She wasn't just following tradition. She was carrying it with her, and it seemed heavy, almost too heavy for someone so young. Jason couldn't sleep. Every time he shifted, he caught her watching him, her violet eyes reflecting the faint light of the room. "Are you uncomfortable?" he whispered, trying to sound casual, though his heart raced. Liara shook her head slowly. "No, I am adjusting." Jason bit his lip. He wanted to ask more, to understand why someone would demand something so strange. But there was a pause, a silence filled with the kind of tension that only happens when two beings from completely different worlds try to bridge. A gap of understanding. Then, finally, she spoke again, in her gentle, precise English. "Humans may not understand fully, but for my people, sleeping alone is dangerous. Even on my world, we do not rest alone. We sleep together for protection, for trust, for connection." Jason swallowed. Protection? What kind of danger? Her gaze softened, and a faint shiver passed through her shoulders. "The nights. They are not like your nights. Storms tear through forests. Predators hunt silently. Even wind can take life. Alone we are weak. Together we survive. To share a bed is to share life." Jason felt a strange mix of awe and guilt. He had always thought of humans as strong, clever, capable of surviving anything. And yet here was Liara, whose entire species had endured unimaginable hardships, who was following a custom that demanded complete trust in another person, and she had chosen him. He realized that for her, this was more than a tradition. It was a test of faith, of loyalty, of courage. If she felt he was unsafe, or if he rejected her, she would see it as dishonor. She had crossed stars to reach Earth, trusting that humans were not dangerous, and now she was trusting him personally. Jason felt the weight of that trust pressing down on him like a silent obligation. He shifted slightly, careful not to jostle her. "I don't want you to feel forced," he said quietly. "If you're not comfortable, I can find another way." Liara's gaze met his, calm but intense. "No, I will endure discomfort if it means honoring trust. To sleep with you is a promise of loyalty, of care. I cannot reject it, even if it is painful." Pain. That word made Jason's stomach twist. She had not complained, not even once, yet she admitted she would suffer silently. His heart ached, because he realized that to her, discomfort was meaningless compared to honor and trust. He had read stories of her people, of worlds where kindness was scarce and betrayal was common, yet here she was, vulnerable, giving him a piece of her life no human had ever held. He wanted to speak, to tell her that she didn't need to endure suffering for him, but she had already made her choice. And in that choice, Jason saw something he hadn't fully understood before. Humanity was not just about physical strength or cleverness. Sometimes it was about accepting trust, protecting it, and honoring it with every action. The night passed slowly. Jason couldn't sleep. He watched her breathing, shallow but steady, marveling at her restraint. And yet, there was a fragility, too. A quiet reminder that tradition, no matter how noble, could bring pain if not cared for properly. By morning, the sun spilled through the small window, and Liara sat upright on the edge of the bed. She stretched, carefully, keeping her movements measured, almost cautious. "I am ready for the day," she said softly, though Jason noticed a subtle stiffness in her movements. Her face, serene as it looked, betrayed a faint hint of strain. Jason hesitated, then asked, "Did it hurt last night?" Liara's gaze flickered downward. She forced a small, polite smile. "It is uncomfortable, but I am fine. Tradition must be followed. Trust must not be broken." Jason's heart tightened. He wanted to protest, to tell her she didn't need to suffer. But he also realized something important. This was her way of connecting with him. If he interfered too soon, he might break the very trust she was extending. So instead, he nodded, quietly. "Okay, I understand." Her eyes softened, and she gave him a faint bow of thanks. That simple gesture carried a depth of emotion words could not capture. It was gratitude, respect, and vulnerability all in one. Jason realized then that this year would not just be about cultural exchange or learning alien customs. It would be about understanding courage, loyalty, and what it truly meant to connect with another being, no matter how different. And for the first time, Jason felt that being chosen by someone so alien, yet so human in her trust and care, was both an honor and a responsibility he could not take lightly. Weeks passed, and life in the small apartment began to settle into a rhythm. Jason woke each morning to the soft hum of Liara moving around the kitchen, preparing something simple for breakfast. He watched her silently sometimes, fascinated by the way she carried herself. Every gesture was careful, precise, almost ceremonial, as if each movement had meaning beyond what he could understand. At first, sleeping together had been strange. Nights were filled with awkward shuffles, stiff limbs, and whispered apologies for taking up too much space. But over time, Jason noticed a small comfort in her presence. Even if it was unusual for a human, having someone next to him, trusting him so completely, made the night feel safer. He had come to look forward to it in a quiet, unexpected way. However, Jason began to notice subtle changes in Liara. Some mornings, she moved slower than usual, rubbing her arms or twisting her torso gingerly. Her soft violet eyes sometimes flickered, with discomfort when she stood. One morning, as she bent down to pour water, Jason noticed her wince sharply, a hand brushing her side as if to ease some unseen pain. "Liara?" he asked cautiously, concerned. "Are you okay?" She quickly straightened and forced a polite smile. "I am fine. Do not worry." Jason studied her for a long moment. There was a stiffness in her movements that didn't belong, a quiet tension that her words didn't hide, but her smile tried to. He wanted to push, to ask again. But he also knew this was part of her nature, stoic, proud, unwilling to complain. That night, as they prepared to sleep, Jason noticed her hesitation before lying down. She placed herself carefully on the bed, folding her arms across her chest as usual, but now there was a faint tremble in her shoulders. He felt a pang of guilt in his chest. Here she was, enduring this human bed, following a tradition that required trust, and she was hurting silently. Jason tried to sleep, but he kept stealing glances at her. In the dim light, he could see the subtle shifts, the way she pressed her, side against the mattress, trying to make herself comfortable. His mind spun. How could something so small, a bed, a human mattress, cause her pain? How could he have ignored it for so long? Finally, he whispered, almost to himself, "Why didn't you tell me?" Liara's violet eyes met his in the dark. "I did not wish to burden you. This discomfort is small. Tradition demands endurance. I cannot refuse." Jason felt a sharp ache in his chest. Endurance. Suffering silently for trust. She had chosen him as a companion, a friend, and she was quietly paying a price for that choice. He realized that while he had come to see this as a strange tradition, for her it was much more. It was a test of character, a demonstration of loyalty, and a way of showing that she trusted him completely. Over the next few nights, Jason noticed more signs. Liara sometimes hesitated when climbing onto the bed. She would adjust herself carefully, her fingers brushing the sheets as if testing for comfort. Occasionally, she would shift during the night, letting out soft murmurs in her own language, words Jason could not understand, but felt like cries of discomfort. He wanted to reach out, to do something, but he didn't know how. He didn't want to insult her culture or break the trust she had given him. Yet the sight of her silently suffering gnawed at him. He had never realized that trust could demand so much, that honor could come with invisible pain. One morning, as Liara stretched, carefully after waking, Jason finally spoke. "Liara, your body, you're hurting, aren't you?" She paused, eyes lowering. "A little," she admitted softly. "But it is acceptable. I am keeping the promise." Jason shook his head, frustration and care fighting in his chest. "No, this isn't acceptable. You shouldn't hurt yourself for tradition. You shouldn't suffer in silence just because you feel obligated." Liara looked at him for a long moment, her face serene but thoughtful. "Trust is not without cost. Endurance is not dishonor. If I cannot bear it, it means I reject you. That is worse than pain." Jason felt the weight of her words sink deep into his heart. He realized that her tradition was not just about shared sleep. It was about connection, vulnerability, and loyalty. She was giving him a piece of herself that no human had ever held. And in return, he had a choice: honor her trust, or let her suffer. That night, Jason lay awake longer than ever before, staring at the ceiling, watching Liara shift gently in her sleep. He understood that this year would not just be a cultural exchange, it would be a journey into patience, compassion, and understanding. A journey that tested not only her courage, but his humanity as well. And in that quiet, weighty night, Jason made a silent promise. He would not let her endure this pain alone. He would find a way to honor her tradition and protect her at the same time. It was a rainy night when Jason finally realized just how much Liara had been suffering. The wind outside rattled the windows, and the faint hum of the city mixed with the drumming of rain on the roof. Usually he could tune it out, but tonight, he couldn't sleep. He kept glancing at her, noticing the small ways she shifted, the faint tensing of her shoulders, the delicate hands brushing over her sides as if testing for comfort. Jason had tried to ignore it before, telling himself that she was fine, that endurance was part of her culture. But tonight, the quiet ache in her movements became impossible to overlook. She winced softly as she tried to adjust her position, her violet eyes flicking toward him for just a moment before looking away. "Liara," he whispered, his voice thick with concern. "You're hurting, aren't you?" She froze, then gave a small, polite shake of her head. "No, it is minor. I am fine. Do not worry." Jason felt a flash of frustration and helplessness. "Stop saying that. You're not fine. I can see it. Every morning, every night, I see you struggling. This bed, it hurts you, doesn't it?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, her voice trembled ever so slightly. "Yes, it is uncomfortable. Your bed, it is not like the nests of my people. It is hard. It does not support me. But tradition?" Jason's chest tightened. He stepped closer, his heart pounding. "Tradition doesn't mean you have to hurt yourself. You don't have to suffer just to honor a custom. I can help. We can find a way to make it right." Liara's. Eyes widened slightly, a mixture of surprise and worry crossing her features. If I do not endure, it means I reject trust. It means I dishonor you. I cannot do that. I cannot dishonor you. Jason shook his head, feeling helpless and angry at the same time. No! Enduring pain doesn't honor anyone. It just hurts you. You're hurting, Liara, and I won't let that happen silently anymore. She looked down, her silver skin reflecting the soft light of the room. For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy and tense. Then she finally spoke, voice small and sincere. I did not want to burden you. I thought, if I suffer quietly, it is my strength, my choice. Jason's frustration softened into a tender ache. He reached out, hesitating, and placed his hand gently on hers. You're not a burden. You're my roommate, my friend. If I care about you, I have to help. I can't watch you suffer just because of a tradition. Her violet eyes glistened, a mixture of relief and guilt. I have never known someone to care for me like this, she whispered. Even on my world, no one has noticed. No one has tried to ease the pain. I thought it was my duty to endure. Jason's heart ached. He realized then that her endurance wasn't just about tradition. It was about trust, about giving someone else a part of herself no one had ever seen. And she had given that trust to him. He pulled back slightly, giving her space but keeping his hand nearby. Liara, you don't have to do it alone. You never have to do it alone. We'll make this bed work. We'll find a way that respects your tradition without causing pain. She stared at him, silent for a long moment, as if weighing every word. Then slowly, she nodded. I trust you. Jason felt a rush of emotion, relief, gratitude, and awe all mixed together. She had endured weeks of discomfort silently, yet she still chose to trust him. That trust was precious, fragile, and he would not break it. The rest of the night passed quietly, but differently. Liara adjusted herself with less tension, her body relaxing ever so slightly. Jason stayed close, careful not to disturb her, but also vigilant, determined to make sure she no longer had to suffer alone. By morning, Jason had already made a decision. He would not let tradition harm her. He would find a way to honor her customs while protecting her comfort. He would show her that humanity wasn't just about strength or cleverness. It was about kindness, understanding, and courage. And as he watched Liara sit at the edge of the bed, stretching carefully but with less pain than usual, he realized something important. Sometimes the greatest acts of humanity weren't in grand gestures or heroic deeds. They were in noticing the silent suffering of another and choosing to act. Liara's trust had given him a responsibility, and he would bear it proudly. The next day, Jason woke with a determination he had never felt before. He could no longer ignore what he had seen. Liara, despite her quiet strength and patience, had been enduring pain silently for weeks, all because of a tradition that mattered deeply to her. It was not right to let her continue. He needed to act, not just for her comfort, but to honor the trust she had placed in him. He spent the morning walking through the city, thinking. He searched for bedding, cushions, anything that could mimic the soft nests Liara had described. From her world. Memory foam, soft blankets, layers of padding. He bought everything he could carry. His hands were full, but his mind was fuller. Every item was more than just a material purchase. It was a promise that her endurance would no longer come at the cost of pain. When he returned to the apartment, Liara was in the kitchen, quietly preparing something simple to eat. She looked up when he entered, her violet eyes curious but calm. Liara, Jason said, balancing the bags carefully. I think I can help. I want to make the bed better for you. Softer, comfortable, closer to what you're used to. Can I? For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she gave a small nod. I trust you. That simple sentence made Jason's heart pound. He had known she trusted him, but hearing it aloud, seeing her eyes, it felt like a gift. A gift he intended to honor fully. They began working together. Jason laid down layers of memory foam, folding blankets into thick, soft pads. Liara watched quietly, occasionally reaching out to adjust a corner here or smooth a fold there. Her fingers brushed his lightly, careful but deliberate. He could feel the weight of her gratitude, though she never spoke it in words. Finally, after hours of work, the bed was transformed. What had been hard and narrow now looked like a soft nest, layered with blankets and cushions, almost cloud-like in appearance. Jason stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow, and smiled. Liara approached slowly. She hesitated at the edge of the bed, then tentatively touched the blankets. Her violet eyes widened, reflecting surprise, relief, and something deeper. Hope. You did this for me? She whispered. Jason nodded. Yes. I can't let you hurt yourself just because of tradition. You trusted me, and I want to honor that trust in every way I can. Her lips trembled slightly, and she pressed a hand to her chest. I have never known someone to care like this, she said softly. Even on my world, no one has ever taken such care. I do not know what to say. Jason shook his head gently. You don't need to say anything. Just rest. Be comfortable. That's enough. That night, as they lay on the newly softened bed, Liara curled into the layers of blankets with a grace Jason had never seen before. For the first time, she seemed to relax completely. Her shoulders no longer tensed, her breathing was steady, and she murmured softly in her own language, a sound that seemed peaceful rather than restless. Jason watched her, a quiet pride swelling in his chest. This was more than just a bed. It was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of trust, respect, and understanding. He realized that helping her was not just about physical comfort. It was about honoring her culture, her values, and the bond they shared. Before sleep claimed her, Liara turned slightly toward him, her eyes reflecting moonlight and vulnerability. You have eased my burden. You have honored my trust and my pain. I am grateful. Jason's chest tightened. He wanted to say something profound, but words felt small compared to the depth of that moment. Instead, he reached out, letting his hand rest lightly over hers. You don't have to endure anything alone anymore, he whispered. I'll be here. Always. Liara's lips curved into a soft, genuine smile. She had endured weeks of silent discomfort. Yet here she was, finally able to rest fully. Her trust had been met with care, her pain acknowledged and eased. And Jason knew that the simple act of honoring her comfort had strengthened a bond that was no longer just about roommates. It was about understanding, loyalty, and something profoundly human. As the city lights flickered outside, Jason realized something vital. Humanity, in its best form, was not measured by power, technology, or achievements. It was measured by kindness, empathy, and the courage to ease another's suffering, even when it required effort and patience. And tonight, as Liara slept peacefully, he understood that he had taken the first step, not just in helping her, but in becoming the kind of human worthy of her trust. The nights that followed were different. The apartment, once filled with quiet tension and careful movements, now felt softer, warmer, almost alive. The bed, layered with blankets and cushions, had become more than a place to sleep. It had become a sanctuary. Liara no longer approached it with hesitation. She stepped onto it as if it belonged to her entirely, folding herself gently into the nest Jason had made. Jason watched her from the corner of his eye one evening as she stretched slightly, a small, almost imperceptible smile on her lips. "You are different tonight," he said quietly, careful not to startle her. Liara glanced at him, her violet eyes reflecting gratitude and something deeper, something unspoken. "Yes," she admitted softly. "I feel lighter. The pain is gone. Your efforts, they honor my trust and protect me." Jason felt a warmth in his chest. He realized then that what he had done was more than just physical. It was emotional, too. By acknowledging her suffering and taking action, he had shown her that her trust was valued, that she did not have to endure alone. The next few days were filled with small, meaningful changes. Liara began to move more freely around the apartment. She laughed quietly when Jason tripped over a pile of blankets, teasing him gently in her soft, melodic voice. She even began to share stories of her home planet, speaking of forests that glowed under twin moons, of rivers that sang in the night, and of people who survived not just with strength, but with patience and care. Jason listened, enraptured. He realized that these stories were more than tales. They were pieces of her soul, fragments of her life that she had never shown anyone before. And now she was sharing them with him, because she trusted him. One night, as they lay in the nest, together, Liara spoke quietly, her voice almost a whisper. "On my world, to share a nest is to promise. I will not leave you. I will stand with you." Jason turned toward her, his own heart heavy with emotion. "And I promise the same," he said softly. "You will never face anything alone. I will stand with you too." For the first time, Liara's body relaxed completely against the bed. Her shoulders loosened, her breathing became steady and deep, and she let out a small, content sigh. Jason felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. The silent suffering, the tension, the worry, they were gone. In their place was a bond that had been forged through trust, care, and understanding. Over the next few nights, the healing continued, not just physically, but emotionally. Liara began to wake up with a small smile, a lightness in her movements. And sometimes she would reach for Jason's hand, a quiet gesture of gratitude and connection. Jason, in turn, felt a quiet pride and responsibility. He had not just eased her pain, he had earned her trust, and in doing so, had become a better human, a better friend, someone capable of understanding a world entirely different from his own. One evening, as they lay together in the soft glow of the city lights filtering through the window, Liara whispered something that made Jason pause. "I never thought humans could care like this. On my world, kindness is rare. Trust is fragile. But you have changed that for me." Jason squeezed her hand gently. "I didn't do it to change anything," he said. "I did it because it was right. Because you deserved it." Her violet eyes glistened in the faint light, a mixture of emotion and wonder. "You make me believe that my trust is not foolish. That's sharing my pain, sharing my world. It is worth it. With you, I am safe, and that is precious." Jason felt a lump in his throat. In that simple, quiet moment, he understood something essential. Humanity was not about power, technology, or even survival. It was about empathy, understanding, and the courage to act when someone else suffered. By listening, by caring, by taking action, he had honored not just Liara's tradition, but her very being. And as they drifted into sleep together in the soft nest he had built, Jason felt a deep, unshakable connection between them. It was more than friendship. It was trust, respect, and a shared understanding that crossed the boundaries of species, planet, and tradition. In that quiet apartment, in the simple act of caring for another, Jason realized the true meaning of humanity, and Liara, for the first time in weeks, felt completely at home. Weeks had passed since Jason had transformed the bed into a nest of comfort. What began as a simple act of care had grown into something far deeper. The apartment no longer felt small or cramped. It had become a place of trust, laughter, and quiet understanding. Liara moved with ease now, her violet eyes brighter, her silver skin shimmering faintly in the soft glow of the evening light. That night, as rain pattered gently against the window, Jason watched her prepare to sleep. She paused at the edge of the bed, her gaze turning toward him. "Jason," she said softly, almost hesitantly. "Yes?" he asked, sensing the weight behind her words. She sat carefully on the edge of the soft nest, her hands resting in her lap. "I have learned something. Your people, humans, you are stronger than I imagined, not in strength or speed, but in heart. You feel deeply. You care, truly. And that is rare." Jason felt a lump in his throat. "Liara, you've trusted me. That trust, it's been a gift. Not just for me, but for both of us. You didn't have to endure any of this alone. I'm glad you let me share it with you." Liara looked at him, a faint, gentle smile playing on her lips. "On my world, to share a nest is a promise of trust, safety, and loyalty. Tonight I understand fully. You have kept that promise, human. You honor me in ways I could never have imagined." Jason's chest tightened with emotion. He reached out and took her hand gently in his, careful, respectful. "And I promise you the same, Liara. Whatever comes, whatever challenges we face, you will never face them alone. I will stand with you. I will protect you. I will care for you." Her eyes shimmered with a mixture of relief, gratitude, and something deeper, something almost fragile and beautiful. "Then I am safe, truly safe, and that is more than I have ever known." For a long moment, they simply held hands, silent but connected. The weight of unspoken words hung in the room. Trust, respect, understanding, and care. The kind of bond that transcended worlds, species, and cultures. Jason realized that this trust was not a burden. It was a bridge. And Liara understood that her tradition, her custom, could be honored without pain, without fear. That night, Liara curled into the nest, Jason beside her. There was no stiffness in her body, no careful movements to hide discomfort. She breathed freely, peacefully, trusting that he would not let her suffer. Jason, in turn, felt a profound responsibility, an honor, to keep that trust safe. As sleep began to take them both, Liara whispered, her voice soft and melodic. "On my world, to share a nest is to promise. I will not leave you. I will stand with you. Tonight I understand that the human heart can keep such promises too." Jason smiled faintly, squeezing her hand gently. "Then I promise, Liara, I will always stand with you, and I will always honor your trust." In the quiet of that small apartment, in the gentle rhythm of breathing and the soft embrace of the bed, something extraordinary had happened. Two beings from completely different worlds had found a connection deeper than words, stronger than fear, and more enduring than pain. Humanity had revealed itself, not in strength or invention, but in empathy, courage, and kindness. Liara's violet eyes slowly closed, her body relaxed completely, and for the first time in many weeks, she slept without fear or discomfort. Jason lay beside her, awake for a little longer, feeling the quiet pride and warmth of someone who had done what was right. He realized that sometimes The greatest acts of heroism were not battles or victories, but in easing the suffering of another, honoring their trust, and sharing their burdens. As dawn crept softly through the window, casting golden light over the apartment, Jason watched Liara sleep. He understood fully now, this bond, this trust, this shared space. It was a miracle of human kindness, patience, and courage. He had learned that to truly honor someone was to care for them fully, without hesitation, without expectation, and with a heart wide open. Liara stirred, opening her eyes slowly, and smiled at him.
"Thank you," she whispered, "for trusting me, for letting me trust you. I feel whole, for the first time, truly whole."
Jason smiled back, feeling a warmth that no words could describe.
"And thank you, Liara, for trusting me, for
teaching me what humanity really is." In that moment, the apartment was no longer small. The bed was no longer just a bed. It was a symbol of connection, trust, and understanding, a testament to what humans could be at their best. And as they drifted into sleep together, it was clear that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, stronger, together, bound by trust and care that spanned worlds. HFY, because sometimes humanity shines brightest not in power, but in kindness, understanding, and the courage to honor another's pain.